Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to the Geek Suite. I'm your host, the one and only Kidner Bean, and we're back. I know it's been a while. I've been dealing with some health issues, dealing with all the craziness with COVID, and trying to balance life and family and health and work. It's definitely taken up more time and left less time for me to do videos I love to make, and I hope you guys enjoy watching them as much as I like making them. There's definitely more videos in the works. Definitely working on continuing the Dungeons and Dragons and Ice and Fire series. I have some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Crimes videos set up in the woodwork, and I've definitely been trying to stay up to date on all things geeky, and I've been watching the new Yashahime series, and so there's definitely going to be a slew of angry nerd rants about that, because I definitely have a lot to say about the new series. I have a lot to say about the old series too, but that is going to be for a future video, so definitely be sure to hit the like and subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out when those videos come out. But today we're going to be talking about sort of a one-off on what does going back to normal even look like? Because I know people are starting to talk about that, and schools are opening, and businesses are opening, and you can dine in restaurants in certain states. Like I'm in California, you can eat indoors now. People are getting the vaccine, and I've been having a lot of conversations with my significant other and my friends and family about, well, okay, so things are going back to normal, but what does that even mean? And I think one of the things I wanted to talk about was, well, we haven't really been in this situation before where we've had a pandemic or a disaster that impacted people on a global scale. So I don't really know that we'll ever go back to the way things were before. And the only thing I can think of that would be something akin to this would be 9/11. So for some of my younger viewers, before 9/11, you could do things like go to the airport and walk with your loved ones. If you were dropping them off at the airport, you could park and walk all the way up to the gate with them and go through security. It didn't take very long. You didn't have to take off your shoes or your belt or your jacket. You just had to empty your pockets. You didn't need a boarding pass to get past the security gates. And there were a lot less restrictions on things like travel and safety and what you could and couldn't take on a plane or a bus or a train. And then after 9/11 happened, things were completely different. I remember at the time my parents were divorced, so I and my siblings would go back and forth across the country via plane to visit my dad during the summers and when we were out of school. And one of the first times that we had to do that was immediately after 9/11, and like I think it was September 11th. I think it was something like November and December, because we were going for the Christmas holidays. And security was insane. My mom obviously wasn't coming with us on the flight, so we were unaccompanied minors. But even as unaccompanied minors, our flight took off, I want to say, at like 10 or 11 a.m. And traditionally, airports recommend you get there 90 minutes to 2 hours before your flight for domestic, and 3 or 4 hours for international. Those are post 9/11 times. Before then, I think it was even faster. You only needed to be there like an hour before for domestic and 2 hours for international. We got there at like 6 in the morning, checking in at the desk with the flight agent. And they took all of our little suitcases, my little SpongeBob rolling backpack, and it wasn't just putting it through the scanner. Before we even got to the scanner, before we presented our boarding passes to the TSA agent, they had these tables set out in the checkout areas where they had them, set up with partitions so you couldn't see what they were doing, and they would physically open your luggage and rifle through every piece of clothing and your toothbrush and your deodorant. And at 9 or 10 years old, them looking through my underwear, I was like, what the hell? I'm 9. What am I gonna do? But they were super serious, and it took the whole 4 or 5 hours just to get through security, because they had to do that, put everything back in, and keeping in mind there were 3 of us, and that was just for our little party. They had to do this with every single person who was trying to fly. And then you had to go through security. You had to take off your jacket and your belt and your shoes. And I don't think the shoe thing came until later when there was a shoe bomb. But my point being, things were very hectic for the first couple of years after 9/11 when it came to travel. It went from being a 1 hour from car to gate to 4 or 5 hours. And there was very stringent searching, and you couldn't bring anything that could possibly be turned into a weapon. But then, as time went on, things went quote unquote back to normal. But what back to normal was not what was normal pre 9/11. If you travel now in 2021, or let's do pre-COVID, 2018, 2019, you need your ID. You didn't always need to have like a government ID. I remember one of my friends, she left her ID in her car and she somehow got through airport security with her expired California weed card going through an airport in Florida. That was sufficient. Or, my little school ID was sufficient. When I was traveling as a child, they didn't need to look at my birth certificate or anything until after 9/11 to verify. So now you need, a real DID to travel. You still have to take off your jacket, your belt, and your shoes. That never went away. It still takes, 2 hours, 3 hours to get through airport security. Now they've added things like the Fast Pass, where you do a background check and you pay, I think it's like $85 or $100, and it's good for like 3 or 5 years. So if you travel a lot, you can do like a Fast Pass through airport security because you've been pre-cleared. But things never went all the way back to normal. We now have body scans. If anything, things continued to progress in the area of safety technology when it came to travel. And I think that that's going to be the same for COVID. So what does that look like in a post-COVID world? Well, if a post 9/11 world was, some of the restrictions and wait times for travel went away. I think some of the, but not altogether. And there were, in fact, on the opposite side of that, advancements in the area of travel protection and technology with things like the body scanners. And I think that will be similar when it comes to COVID. So what would that potentially look like? I think that, some of the things that we see that are common in other parts of the world, like in several Asian countries, if you look at, when you see them, if someone is sick, they'll wear a mask. Pre-COVID, during flu season, almost everyone wears masks. It's very common. I have friends who live in Korea and Japan and China and Taiwan, and wearing masks during flu season was very common. Or if you were sick, you wore them out. And so I think that that is going to become more of a global trend in a post-COVID world, that when someone is sick, they'll just wear a mask in public, or that masks will become a commonplace thing to wear here on the Western Hemisphere in the United States and the EU and places like that, that when cold and flu season comes, people will wear more masks. I wouldn't be surprised, given all of the reports about new strains of COVID coming out that are resistant to the vaccines that are coming out. I imagine that, at least for the next few years, that in addition to getting a yearly flu vaccine, you may need to have a booster for the COVID vaccine. I imagine that outdoor dining is going to be an ongoing trend for the next couple of years. People are going to prefer to eat indoors less. Social distancing, some of those practices may remain more commonplace, like standing farther apart in line, which I am definitely for, because I've definitely been in line pre and during COVID, where people are so close to me, I feel like they're trying to crawl up my butthole. And there's just no need for that in a Target on a Saturday. There's just not. So hopefully those little taped spacers are going to probably stay very relevant. People are probably going to take hand washing a little more seriously. And the way that we deal with social gatherings may take some time to completely return to something that resembled a pre-COVID world. What do you guys think is going to change, or stay, rather, as these restrictions are lifted? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Another thing I think that people are going to take more seriously is the scientific process. I know a lot of people during COVID got to see science in action, and that's very different from hearing about studies on the news, or when industries and authorities like the CDC give recommendations. People are used to that being the definitive end-all be-all decision from the scientific community, and they don't typically get to see what happens in the background. And that was very different this time, because people got to see information being updated as it came in. And so I know that that can be very confusing for people. We're saying, oh, but last week the CDC said this, and this week they say that. And changing your hypotheses and changing your recommendations based on new information is very much how science is done. And so I think that's really going to open people's eyes a little bit more, to be a little more discerning about where they're getting information and how to update that information, and how to change your opinion as your available information comes in. So for instance, the CDC, and of course there's always, you want to follow safety guidelines, but you also want to follow what's best for you. So I know that the CDC has recently been saying if you've been fully vaccinated, you no longer need to wear a mask. And I personally think that that's really naive of them, because you can't tell if someone's been vaccinated or not just by looking at them. And there are a lot of anti-vax people and a lot of anti-vaccination sentiment pre-COVID, so having a lot of people who feel that way, and there are definitely going to be people who are proud to say that they're not vaccinated, but there's definitely going to be a bunch of people who just don't want to be vaccinated or don't want to wait in that line, the quote-unquote Karens of the internet. And I can definitely see a scenario in which people like that are going to lie about being vaccinated or forge a vaccination card in order to get away with not having to deal with COVID restrictions anymore and causing another uptick in COVID cases or endangering other people. So while I am fully vaccinated and my partner is fully vaccinated and several members of my family are, I still personally wear a mask when I go out in public, because it makes me feel safer that I'm, just because I'm vaccinated doesn't mean that, if I touch something that has the COVID germs on it, I can still carry that around with me if I don't have hand sanitizer and accidentally infect someone who's still vulnerable but hasn't gotten fully vaccinated yet, because while it won't hurt me necessarily, I could still be carrying it around and spreading it without realizing it, because despite being, as diligent as you can, humans are humans, mistakes happen, and you can't kill every single germ you see. I mean, hand sanitizer only kills 99.99% of bacteria, so you definitely want to do what feels best for you. If it makes you feel better emotionally or physically, or you haven't been fully vaccinated yet, definitely continue to wear a mask. Do what feels right for you, but definitely do what is safe. And so that's just going to be where I leave that. And not to bury the lead here, but yes, I dyed my hair. That was one of the many things that I did during COVID when I had a little bit more energy and I wanted to do something to make myself feel good, since I haven't really been feeling all that well with my disabilities, Ehlers-Danlos and mast cell disease and Arnold-Chiari. I have videos talking about those, which I'll link somewhere here and definitely in the description section down below if you want to know more about that. But yeah, I tried the Lime Crime hair dye. It's supposed to be better for your hair. I'd used Overtone before in the past, which is a color depositing conditioner and not a hair dye. I liked those results, but I was looking for something a little more dramatic, so I did some bleach on my hair, just some low 20 volume bleach to bring it just light enough so that the color would really take. And so I'll link the colors that I used in the description section down below. All right, my lovelies, that's all that I've got for today. I do definitely want to hear from all of my lovelies. What is the first thing that you want to do once safety restrictions are fully lifted in your area and things feel quote unquote normal for you? Where's the first place that you want to go? What's the first thing that you want to do? One of the first things that my partner and I did when we were both healthy enough and fully vaccinated was we took a trip to Lake Village in Northern California, Lake Tahoe. We stayed there for a week. I had a place there, and we did it in such a way that it was during the low season, so there weren't as many people there. We still wore masks when we went out, but we actually got to go out. We got to eat in restaurants. We got to sit by the lake and enjoy nature and sort of get away from it all. And it was really a nice, relaxing week. And so getting out and getting to interact with other humans, it seemed a little weird, but it was definitely a fun experience. And when we came home, we still aren't eating out locally, but that is something that we're looking forward to. And definitely Disneyland. I didn't get to go to the new Star Wars exhibit that they have in Tomorrowland before everything got shut down. So I'm definitely looking forward to maybe saving up and getting to do that with my partner once things return to normal and people are safe. I'm definitely looking forward to that. So I would definitely want to hear what are some of the top things that you guys are looking forward to. So definitely leave me a comment in the comment section down below. And once again, hit that like and subscribe. And if you want to support more videos and get access to Patreon only content, I do have a Patreon channel. I'll leave the link here and in the description section down below. All right, lovelies, stay tuned. We have a lot more videos coming up in the Geek Suite, and I will see you all next time.